Hey friends, I hope the morning's treating you well. It's absolutely beautiful morning here. I hope it's beautiful wherever you're at. Lots of good things in my life to feel good about, and I just got back from Nashville, spent a month in Nashville, and tomorrow I have to drive back to Nashville, and then I'm flying to the UK for a couple weeks of touring. Been very, very busy. And I just happened to pass 100,000 subscribers on this channel a few days ago, and I thought, well, this is a pretty good place for me to go ahead and do a little State of the Union, talk about the future of this channel. I have some ideas and some things that I'd like to share with you. But before I do that, just a really quick backstory. There's a lot of new people here who have no idea how I even started doing this stuff. I'm a musician. I haven't had a day job in over 20 years, and just somehow been able to play my guitar and sing songs, and it's paid the bills, and I live very much within my means throughout that whole thing. As an independent musician, I would sometimes have to go do interviews, and you want to turn people on, and I quickly learned that I just really didn't enjoy being interviewed. People would ask me questions that had nothing to do with me. They would interrupt and try to get in their one-liners, and it just never went well. I had one particularly bad one, and I just said, to hell with it. I don't work for anybody. I'm not gonna do interviews anymore. And there's that moment when you feel good about that, and a couple days later I think about it and I'm like, okay, hotshot, you're not gonna be interviewed anymore. What are you gonna do? Because I do believe in life you can't just be against things, you have to be for things. What are you for? How are you going to fix this? You need solutions in life. You just can't go around complaining. At least that's how I think about it. So I thought about it, and I thought, I know all of these people who have really great stories about their experiences in life, or they were part of something really wonderful, or they were in the room when something really cool happened. What if I create a podcast and I start, making an archive of some of these stories that even if a lot of these people aren't being interviewed, and if they are, they're being asked dumb, inane questions that don't really entertain anybody. When I think, why don't they ask them about that thing that I heard backstage somewhere? So I started this podcast, and I started to build an archive of these stories, and it's called Thanks for Giving a Damn. And it immediately took off. Like, the idea is I wanted to build a platform that I wish already existed, that I could walk onto, and I would just try to make these people look as good as I possibly could. So I would tell people the perfect episode would be one where I did not say a single word in it, where I would just simply let the people tell their story. And I also would say, and people would get mad at me, you could learn more about me by listening to me sit quietly while someone else is telling a story on my podcast. You could learn more about me in 5 minutes of that than every interview that I had ever taken part in where I'm being interviewed. If you put all those together, they didn't add up to what you'd learn about me when I sit quietly. That's what I would tell people, and I get in trouble for it, but it's true. And the podcast got really popular. Just thanks for giving a damn, if I haven't said that before. So I looked at it like this is an investment in myself. I'm just going to do this and we'll see what happens. And it was a very, very positive thing. I never made any money from it. And somewhere along the line, people from Pandora approached me and offered me a History of Country Music show that I hosted. And there were over 3 million subscribers to that. We did 2 seasons. They paid me well. It was like the most positive experience I've ever had in the actual music industry. And that says something. How many people say that about something? It was beautiful. And then came the pandemic. So when I'm locked down in my house and all of this ugliness of the pandemic, and I have this free time on my hand, and I had 5 tours canceled, and I was really starting to worry about a lot of things, including money. And I just thought, man, when I talk to people, since I was in high school, when I talk to people, they calm down and they feel better about stuff. I thought, I need to be distracted, and I'm just going to talk about music and I'm going to talk about the things that I like. And it'll just be an extension of what I started with the podcast, and I'll just do it on YouTube. And it immediately took off. Like, the idea is I would throw something positive out into the world and see what happened. I would put a note in a bottle, throw it out into the ocean, and see if anybody found it. Well, a lot of people found it, and it grew quickly. And I didn't expect that. You know, I've met all of these really nice people. It's a crazy thing. You tell a John Prine story, and the nicest people in the world show up. I mean, it was really beautiful. So by throwing something positive out into the world, I got something positive back big time in a time when I really needed it. And it also, I made a little bit of money from it. I didn't know people made any money doing this kind of stuff, but I made a little bit of money and was able to do it. And then when we got out of lockdown, I started interviewing people again. And I thought, to hell with it, I should put it on YouTube. And it's just an extension of what I started with the podcast, just in video form. And it's been able to somewhat sustain itself. And I really enjoy doing it. And when I talk about moving forward, I want you guys to know I'm always going to do this. I enjoy doing it, and I'm always going to do this. But it's just me. Like, I'm the only person. Every now and then, we're talking about like 0.1% of the time, my best friend Todd Fox will come out and help me by holding a camera and help me a little bit like that. But it's me. I'm doing every single bit of this. And I quickly learned I'm having a hard time sustaining, my making music. And, I tour, make music. I have a lot of things that I do, and I have to make a living. So the amount of time that I put into this, is determined by if it can sustain itself, or else I have to do something else with that time to pay the mortgage and all that stuff. And I started saying something like that a year or so ago, and I started a Patreon, and I started channel memberships, and people responded, and there's like a nice little amount of folks in there, and it was like an initial wave, and it's kind of plateaued, and that's fine. And I've reached this point where I can do this, but I want to make another plea right now that the more folks who will support this via Patreon, I always say either one is fine. Patreon or YouTube memberships are fine. If you're already in the YouTube memberships, just stay there. This is great. If you're new, join Patreon, because it's a different platform, and I don't have all my eggs in the YouTube basket. If something bad happened, there's like a separate platform in Patreon where, just saying. But do whatever you want. You don't have to join, but if you want us to help sustain this thing, that would be a huge way to do it. And a lot of you hit the tip jar. I put a tip jar, like PayPal and Venmo links, in the comments. Thank you. That's beautiful. And the truth is, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to give me any money. So a lot of you buy my records. That's beautiful. You come to shows. That's beautiful. It all helps. You join you follow me on Spotify. I actually make a little bit of money from Spotify, believe it or not. And if every single one of you were listening to me every day on Spotify, I'd actually make a nice amount of money. I own everything, so all of that ends up to me. It's just but all I'm saying is you don't have to do anything other than watch the videos, and you'll be helping, and I appreciate you being here. I also want to say this. I played a gig down in Key West just a few weeks ago, and when I was there, it was like a performing arts center. It was really cool, and the whole thing is made possible by endowments from people who have money, and they want to support this thing, so they will bring people like me in to play. And they had an artist in residence there who had their own place they were staying, and they were putting them up there. And I thought, well, that's a really interesting idea. What if we created some kind of a situation to where I would be an artist in residence in some other part of the country or world, and I would spend 2 weeks, a month, filming interviews with people who are part of the history of that area, who are still around. I was thinking in Key West, Jerry Jeff Walker stories and Jimmy Buffett stories of people who still lived there, who knew them and saw them around, and collect these over thing. And it would be made possible by an endowment from the Save the Otis Foundation or whatever. These are just ideas that I have. I have no idea how we actually make that happen. But maybe some other show that you dig, somebody watching this on their own channel, you might take this idea and use it for yourself and figure it out. These are ways for these things to keep going forward, and to spend a lot more time and energy on that. So like I said, I have to drive to Nashville, driving back down there, and then I have to get on a flight and go to the UK and play for a couple weeks of shows. And are any of you guys in UK? I'll put the dates down below. I know I'm going to see quite a few people who watch this channel. I see quite a few people who come up and say, I listen to the podcast, to Thanks for Giving a Damn for years and always loved it. Is it coming back? And I have to tell them, I doubt it, but one day maybe it'll be possible to make that happen. And I probably shouldn't even bring it up because it'll just make people feel bad or whatever. But anyway, that's kind of where that stands. Thank you guys for being here. It's kind of beautiful that 100,000 people have clicked a button that says, I would like to hear more from this guy, which is kind of a crazy thing. And I remember when I first started uploading videos, there were two different channels that I was looking at, and I've always looked at it like this. I talk about things that most people in the world don't care about. I make music that only appeals to a very small percentage of the population, and I get that. The good news is there's a whole lot of people in the world. There's a lot of people in the world, so that tiny percentage ends up being a lot of folks. And I remember watching two different channels that were very niche, very niche channels. Like, there can't be that many people who care about this, but they had around 80,000 subscribers. And I thought, that's just amazing that these folks have built this thing that all of these people from different parts of the world could find their way to. And a community, I could see a community spring from it. And I just thought that has to feel so good. And it seems so unattainable. But I learned a long time ago that you don't have to do everything at once. You just get up and you do a little bit each day. And you put as much time as you can into something and try to build something. And that little bit of effort every day adds up over the course of time. And here we are just a few years later, and I'm at 100,000 subscribers, and I have this wonderful community. And this community, you could see from day one, there were a lot of nice people, and they weren't assholes. They were like really good people. And that helped make it possible to come. And these people, during that pandemic, all went to my website and started buying records, hitting the tip jar and all of that, and helped me get through the pandemic. So by throwing something positive out into the world, I got way more back in a time when I desperately needed it. And I'll always remember that, and I'll always appreciate that. But so this is my call to action. If you want to join the Patreon, please do. I've posted a lot of videos. I've structured it so that no matter how much, there's different tiers of amount of money you can give, but everybody gets the same thing. I don't want your ability to pay, your financial situation, to determine your access to the stuff there. So it starts at $5, Sadly, that's about a cup of coffee these days. It's an expensive cup of coffee, but it starts there, and if you have more than that, there's tiers for that. But in the last week, I did a behind-the-scenes museum tour that's over a half hour long. That parts of it will show up on this channel down the road. I posted, I think, a 30-minute video of me going through a strange roadside attraction in eastern Tennessee, spooky and neat. and cool. I dig the roadside stuff. Me and my buddy Todd Fox have done that for 35 years, and but there's never been a place to share it, so I've kind of figured out in our super secret area that's a good place to share it. Studio tours, just me talking about things that I don't talk about publicly here, and I'm opening up a little bit. There's a lot of stuff. There's probably 100 videos there to go through if you're into that. If you're not, that's fine. But that's my call to action. If you want to join, that'd be beautiful. If you don't, that's fine. Just keep watching the videos. Hit the tip jar, buy a record, add me on Spotify, whatever the hell people do, and come out to a show and say hey to me, and shake my hand and all that good stuff. And I'll leave it at that, 'cause I got to fly to the UK. And I'll see you guys somewhere down the road. Much love to you.